This week's moral education lesson based on taking responsibility. It's me, Mr. Smart, and I'm introducing the lesson for this week, which I'm very excited to do. In this lesson, it will be a video, and you can pause the video, rewind the video, watch as many times as you like, just so you feel you fully understand what taking responsibility is. You will need to have watched the whole video and had to think about some of the questions at the end before you come to meet your class teacher in your Google Hangouts. Let's have a look at the big picture for today's lesson so we know what we're trying to achieve. In this lesson, you'll be exploring the concept of responsibility. We're going to have a look at a story together and reflect upon this concept. And we're also going to look at responsibility across a number of different scenarios. You'll need all of the video and the questions it raises later on before your class teacher meets you for your Google Hangouts. First of all, let's consider some key vocabulary that might come up in today's lesson. Those are behaviour, taking responsibility, apologising, making amends. Behaviour. I think we know we can have behaviour that's good and we can demonstrate positive things, and sometimes behaviour might be described as bad or negative, which maybe isn't such a good thing to have. Behaviour covers how we act, what we say, and what we do and our actions. Taking responsibility is our main theme for today's lesson. And when we're taking responsibility, it includes things like owning up to your mistakes or recognising when you're accountable for different things. Apologising. I'm sure we know what we're saying when we apologise. We're saying words like, I'm sorry. And then we're going to think about how we use those in different scenarios. Also, when it's right to apologise. Finally, making amends. Making amends is a tricky one to demonstrate or to give an explanation for, but making amends, you're putting things right. So maybe something hasn't gone quite how you expect, so by making amends, you're doing the right thing or turning a negative situation into something positive. Let's have a look at our learning objectives for today. So our learning objectives are as follows: to recognise the meaning of the term taking responsibility, to recognise how our actions affect others, to apply appropriate levels of self-awareness and responsibility when communicating with others. First of all then, our hook for today's lesson, our starting point, and it's a bit like our warm-up. Let's start by thinking about our behaviour. How can we take responsibility for what we do and say? What can we do if we upset someone? Pause the video here and take a moment to reflect on these two key questions. You don't need to write them down, just have a think about what your responses are. How can we take responsibility for what we do and say? What can we do if we upset someone? Pause the video and take a minute or two to reflect. Okay, here are my top tips for how to take responsibility and different things you can do to show or make others aware that you are being responsible. First one, you can take responsibility for your thoughts, feelings, words, and actions. Well, what does this mean and what does it look like? Well, you can take responsibility when you accept that your thoughts that you have are your thoughts. They belong to you, and it's coming from your own mind. How you feel happens in your body as a result of your thoughts, and the words you speak come from your mouth and your voice. The actions that you take are taken by you. So it's about taking responsibility and recognising that you are in control of each of these different things. Which in a way links to my number 2 step, and that's to stop blaming. It's to stop blaming others, maybe that's friends or family, and to recognise how you can be responsible for, linking to step number 1, your own actions. So you can stop blaming and accept responsibility. You shift in a mindset and you can turn things around. Step number 3 of my top tips is to stop complaining, which sounds rather easy, but sometimes it can be very difficult. Complaining is another form of blaming, and sometimes by blaming others or complaining, you're making yourself feel like you were the victim, or maybe you didn't have anything, there was no responsibility from you. So see if you can try to stop complaining and think about turning things into a positive. Step number 4, refuse to take anything personal. This can be really tricky at times. and it's a biggie. Assuming that everything is about you. Taking any form of disagreement as a personal attack. Remember, you don't have to control how other people respond. You have control about how you respond. Step number 5. Make yourself happy. Taking responsibility for your happiness can feel really good. Firstly, realize that happiness does not come from outside of you, and it's not the job of your friends or your family to make you happy. It's your responsibility, and you have control about the things that make you happy and whether you are feeling happy or not. And to be happy is a decision. Okay, so you are deciding if you are happy and what makes you happy. Step number 6, live in the present moment. Now, it's very easy for me to say, I'm an old man, much, much, much older than you. But life is for living now. And there is just one moment, and you get one opportunity to live a really happy and successful life. And again, you are in control of that. So think about whether you're going to go through life blaming and complaining, as I mentioned already in my earlier steps, or are you going to find the positive things that make you happy? What are you going to do that challenges yourself? And what are you going to do in the future when you look back on your time now and go, I was really proud of myself when I did this, or when I did that particular moment? Step number 7, use the power of intention. You have the right and the power to choose, and you can choose what you're doing each and every day. You can choose to make the right choices, and you can choose to make the wrong choices. And the power of intention is about how you are using those choices for positive effects. Step number 8, feel calm and confident. This can be very tricky, and especially whilst we're doing online learning. I'm sure there's times when you felt really frustrated, or moments where you've just said, I just can't do it. Try to reflect on what you can do. Take a moment or take a break away from something. Try to build up your confidence in different ways. So if you are finding maths difficult, what can you do in maths that you can feel good about? So you might not be able to multiply 4-digit numbers, but you can probably multiply 1-digit number and a 2-digit number. So rather than beat yourself up about what you can't do, feel calm and confident about the things you can do. Step number 9 is to look for the good in people. No one sets out to upset you, and that's a really important thing to remember. And no matter how many times you get frustrated by your brother or your sister, or your family members or friends, no one is out to intentionally upset or to hurt you. They might be finding things a little bit tricky themselves. So try to look for the good in them and their skills that can help you to feel happy and confident. How can you help them to feel happy and confident as well? Now, that's quite a lot of information to take in there, and some of the things I've said might not be very clear. So feel free to pause the video and to listen to them again, or maybe talk to mum and dad. How many of those 9 steps do you find easy to recognise in yourself? Do you see some of those steps carried out by other people like mum or dad, or brothers or sisters? Are there things on those 9 steps that you think you could do better? Are there some things that you find quite difficult to do and some things you might find easier? If you need to, pause the video. If you're feeling confident, then carry on. Okay, here's a story called Game, Set and Match for Billy. I'm going to read the story, you just need to follow along with me. Billy was playing a game of tennis outside his house with his friend Sam. They were taking it in turns to serve the ball to each other. With every serve, Billy imagined he was the number 1 player at Wimbledon. Game, set and match for Billy from the UAE, said the sports commentator in his imagination. The hopes of the nation rest on his final set, and there is no better player that deserves to be here. Billy is one of the best tennis players in the world. Billy swung his racket and whacked the ball. It hit off the fence. Smash! Oh no! Cried Billy and Sam in unison. The ball had smashed through the window of a neighbour's house. Quick, run! Said Sam, who sprinted off. Billy watched as Sam disappeared around the corner. Although he was tempted, he knew he couldn't run away. "What happened here?" a cross voice asked. Billy turned and saw his neighbour. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sheriff," said Billy. "It was my fault. I wasn't paying attention. Let me clean it up, and maybe I can save up to help pay for a new pane of glass. I'm really very sorry." Now, that was a really interesting story, and I wonder how it shows taking responsibility. Have a think about these questions. And again, you don't need to write anything down because you're going to reflect on these with your class teacher. Why do you think Sam ran away? Do you think he was right to run away? And why did Billy decide to stay? If you need to, have a listen to the story again and just reflect on those 3 questions, maybe in your head, or you can maybe write some small notes down, ready to talk to your class teacher about it in your Google Hangouts. Now I'm going to read through some different scenarios. Scenarios are a bit like a role play, and you're going to decide if those involved took responsibility for their actions. And again, you're going to talk about these with your class teacher. So here are the different scenarios, which I'm going to read out aloud to you, and you might decide if the person in the scenario has taken responsibility, or maybe they haven't taken responsibility. Let's have a look at the first one. When Nina forgot her book for class, she said her brother had hidden it and she couldn't find it. Did Nina take responsibility for her actions? Or is there something else happening in that scenario? Let's look at the second one. Sarah had promised her mother that she would clean her bedroom, but she started to read a book and forgot. She explained what happened to her mother and said she would do it that evening instead of going out to play. Did Sarah take responsibility for forgetting to clean her room? And if she did, what did she do to make amends or to apologise? Let's have a look at the third scenario. Omar didn't do his homework and got a bad mark on a test. He told his parents it was because his friend kept talking to him in class. Did Omar take responsibility there? He didn't do his homework, and it sounds to me like he blamed his friend. Is that taking responsibility? What could Omar have done differently? And let's have a look at the fourth and final scenario. Alex took his mother's phone without her permission. He was playing a game when it fell on the floor and the screen cracked. He called his mother into the room and told her what had happened. Had Alex taken responsibility? Taking his mum's phone without her permission doesn't sound like a good thing to do. But did he make amends in the end? Did he apologise? Did he take responsibility for his actions of the broken phone? You can talk about each of these 4 scenarios with your class teacher, but make sure you have a think about them before you do. So in your Google Hangout this week, you're going to have a think about the following. Think of a time when you did or said something wrong and you took responsibility for your behaviour. Can you write down 3 words to describe how you felt? Also, think of a time when you did or said something wrong and you didn't take responsibility for your behaviour. Can you write down 3 words that describe how you felt then? So just to recap, in your Google Hangout this week, you're going to talk about those 4 scenarios along with the story with Billy and Sam, and also think about how you feel when you've taken responsibility for your actions as well. It'd be great to hear your ideas. Good luck.